The story begins at the exact moment danger arrives, not slowly, not gently, but with fire and noise tearing the sky apart above the most feared place in known space, an academy built to train warriors strong enough to survive galactic war. A place where only the toughest species were sent and where many never lived long enough to graduate. And into this nightmare stands Mira Hale, a young human who does not belong there by choice, wearing new armor that still feels stiff on her body, holding a weapon that still feels strange in her hands. As alarms scream through metal halls and red lights flood the walls like blood, because ships have appeared in the sky without warning and explosions begin to strike the Academy's outer shields, shaking the ground so hard that even the massive alien cadets stumble, while Mira's heart pounds not just from fear but from disbelief, because only weeks ago she was still on Earth, living a quiet life and filling out forms for a future that involved building bridges and fixing cities instead of fighting monsters among the stars. And it was a simple mistake, a wrong mark on a digital form that changed everything, sending her across the galaxy to this brutal academy meant for interspecies war, a place famous for breaking minds and bodies. Yet when the truth had been revealed to her back then, she did not scream or cry, she smiled. Not because she was brave, but because she had learned that fighting reality only hurts more. And now that same choice echoes as chaos explodes around her. Alien cadets of many kinds rushing into position. Some tall and wide with heavy armor and extra arms, others thin and sharp with wings or claws. All trained killers, all stronger than her. And some of them look at her with open doubt and quiet contempt, seeing a soft human standing where legends are forged. And one of them even tells her that humans die fast in places like this, that this academy eats weak species alive, and Mira feels fear rise in her chest but also a slow burn of anger. Because the attackers are not random, they are the Void Reavers. Pirates and slavers who burn worlds and take survivors in chains. The same enemy that once destroyed distant human colonies. And as the Academy declares that every cadet is now a soldier whether ready or not, Mira realizes there is no safety, no escape. No correction of the mistake that brought her here, only survival or death. And when the first breach opens and enemy troops pour through shattered walls, the air fills with smoke and screams and the sound of weapons tearing through stone and flesh. And Mira runs not blindly but with purpose, remembering drills, remembering lessons meant for being stronger than her but still useful to a human who thinks fast, diving behind cover, steadying her breath, firing only when she must, aiming carefully because she knows she cannot waste energy or shots. And as others fall, she feels the heavy truth of war pressing down on her. The smell of burning metal, the sharp taste of fear, the knowledge that one mistake will end her life. Yet instead of freezing she moves, using the environment, watching how the enemy fights, seeing patterns, understanding that strength alone is not everything. And in that moment the story shows what humanity truly brings to the galaxy. Not perfect bodies or natural weapons, but stubborn survival and the will to adapt under pressure. And as the battle grows worse and command breaks down and instructors disappear, the Academy becomes a maze of danger where only quick thinking keeps anyone alive. And Mira, the one who should not be there, begins to understand that the same mistake that threw her into this hell may also be the reason she sees things others miss. Because she is not trapped by tradition or pride, she is simply trying to live. And in doing so, she becomes something dangerous, not yet a hero, not yet a leader, but a spark forming in the middle of destruction, a human standing in a place of legends, refusing to fall. While the galaxy's deadliest academy burns around her and the first true test of humanity among the stars begins. The battle for the Academy escalates in ways that no one could have predicted, with the Void Reavers' dropships screaming through the sky like deadly predators, Disgorging their monstrous troops onto the academy grounds, their tall, bone-armored bodies and glowing red eyes cutting terrifying figures against the burning horizon. And as they poured through the gates, cadets of every species scrambled to respond. Some screaming orders in alien languages, others firing weapons that tore through walls. Energy shields and metal alike, and Mira Hale, small and human among them, moved quickly, instinct guiding her as she ducked behind rubble and fired her rifle with steady hands, careful to target the Reaver's weak points rather than waste precious ammunition. And with every shot, every calculated move, she began to prove something essential about humans, that while they may not be the biggest or the strongest, they survive because they think, because they adapt, and because they refuse to give up even when everything around them is falling apart. As Mira worked through the chaos, she spotted a Salafi cadet pinned under rubble, its fragile wings shredded, the sharp mandibles trembling, and without hesitation she risked her own life, diving across a spray of alien fire to grab a shock grenade and hurl it under the cluster of Reavers, the resulting explosion sending bodies and debris flying. And in that moment, the Salafi looked at her with a mixture of astonishment and disbelief, murmuring that humans should not still be alive. And Mira, breathing hard and covered in sweat and dirt, responded with a simple, quiet joke, revealing her humanity even in the heart of carnage. Across the academy, the attacks intensified, with the Reavers pressing forward, breaking through secondary defenses, reaching armories and corridors meant to be unbreachable. And cadets began to falter under the relentless pressure, fear creeping into their hearts. But then something unexpected happened. Mira spoke into an open communication channel, identifying enemy movements, pointing out weaknesses, and giving instructions based on patterns she observed, patterns that the more powerful alien cadets could not see because they were trained to rely on strength and instinct rather than careful observation and analysis. And slowly, hesitantly, they began to follow her lead, forming teams, moving in coordinated strikes, setting traps, and using the Academy's own corridors and gravity systems to their advantage, turning narrow hallways into kill zones, flooding floors with coolant to slow enemy movement, and overloading lights to blind the invaders until the tide of battle began to shift. Every moment was a test of endurance, every breath a struggle against exhaustion and fear. Yet Mira pressed on, moving through smoke, fire, and broken metal, guiding allies who were stronger, faster, and older than she was, yet who now deferred to her because of her insight and decisiveness, proving that sometimes leadership is not about power, but about seeing clearly when others cannot. And as the Void Reavers' momentum slowed, their formations broke, their advance faltered, and alien cadets began to fight with renewed courage, their confidence bolstered by the smallest human standing among them refusing to fall. Yet even as victories were won in skirmishes, the threat escalated to an almost unimaginable level when the ground shook beneath them and the Void Titan, a colossal, armor-plated creature carrying a weapon that glowed like a miniature sun, descended into the Academy's central chamber, radiating raw destructive power, dwarfing every cadet and every weapon in its presence, and the Titan's roar echoed through the halls, shaking loose debris and striking terror into hearts, proclaiming that the Academy would fall and humanity would be crushed with it. And while others froze or cowered, Mira's mind raced, calculating, planning, remembering drills and strategies, searching for every possible advantage in the overwhelming chaos. And even though fear gripped her, she realized that humans had survived against impossible odds before, on Earth and among the stars, and there was no reason they could not survive here as well. She watched the Titan's massive legs crush walls and shields alike, saw alien cadets falter before its sheer size, and knew that conventional attacks would not work, that brute force alone would be useless. And yet she also understood that humans have always turned disadvantages into opportunities, using cunning, speed, and creativity to outwit stronger enemies. And she began coordinating strikes, luring smaller reavers into traps, exploiting narrow spaces where the Titan could not maneuver, setting up control blasts and energy discharges to distract and damage, and using every tool at her disposal, including the environment itself, to make the battlefield one that could favor her side despite overwhelming odds. As the Academy shook and the Titan loomed, Mira's leadership became unmistakable. Alien cadets followed her instructions, their movements becoming coordinated, precise, almost surgical, as they struck together against advancing enemies, showing that sometimes the smallest voice can command the largest force when logic, courage, and determination align. And while the Void Reaver's attacks continued, forcing cadets to dodge and weave, to fire and retreat, to bleed and recover, Mira's calm, strategic mind allowed them to hold positions they would have otherwise lost, to protect civilians and critical areas, to prevent the invaders from reaching vital points like the armory or the central reactor, which, if destroyed, would doom the entire Academy. In those endless hours, Mira demonstrated the human ability to endure beyond physical limits, to find solutions when no one else can, to turn fear into determination. And even in moments when alien cadets looked at her with disbelief or skepticism, she continued to act, to inspire, to lead by example. And as she did, a sense of hope grew, fragile but unbreakable, that even in the face of monsters and unstoppable forces, survival was possible and perhaps even victory. The human's ingenuity was mirrored in every action: decoy maneuvers, precision strikes, rapid retreats followed by counterattacks, improvising weapons and barricades, adapting to the enemy's patterns faster than they could react. And in every skirmish, in every hall filled with smoke and fire, Mira's presence reminded the Academy that intelligence, courage, and determination are as lethal as claws or plasma cannons. And slowly, inch by inch, corridor by corridor, the cadets began to push the Void Reavers back, reclaiming space once lost, saving their wounded, and stabilizing critical zones. But even as the battle raged, Mira's mind could not ignore the looming threat of the Void Titan, the final obstacle standing between the Academy and total annihilation. And she knew that conventional tactics would fail, that the moment to strike decisively would come soon, requiring not just courage, not just skill, but the same stubborn human resilience that had allowed her to survive this far. And with every step she took, every instruction she gave, every trap she set, she became more than a survivor. She became a symbol of what humanity could achieve, the spark that could light the galaxy even in its darkest hour, showing that even in the deadliest place, with the most terrifying enemies, the smallest human could tip the scales with strategy, daring, and the unwillingness to break. And as the shadows of the Titan stretched across the chamber and the alien cadets looked to her with a mixture of awe and fear, it became clear that the human's greatest weapon was not muscle or armor, not technology alone, but their mind, their ability to adapt, improvise, and lead under pressure, transforming a hopeless situation into one where even the most powerful enemy could be challenged, proving that in the galaxy's deadliest academy, amid fire and blood, humanity's ingenuity could shine brighter than any alien strength. The final battle reached its peak as the Void Titan, a massive, armor-plated behemoth with weapons glowing like miniature suns, loomed over the central chamber of the Academy, each step shaking the floor and sending fragments of debris flying. And for the first time, many cadets felt true terror. knowing that this single enemy could crush entire squads with a flick of its enormous limbs. Yet Mira Hale, small and human, stood her ground. Understanding that fear was useless and only action could save the Academy, her body aching, her armor battered, and her breath coming in ragged gasps, but her mind sharp, calculating every movement, every angle, every potential advantage that could turn the seemingly unstoppable force to her side, because she knew humans had always survived against stronger, faster, and more dangerous opponents by using ingenuity and courage rather than brute strength. And now, everything she had learned in these hours of chaos would be tested in one impossible moment. As the Titan fired its first blast, a wave of energy that melted metal and singed the walls, Mira was thrown across the chamber, hitting the floor with a force that left her dazed and bleeding. But she forced herself to rise, refusing to stay down. Seeing the reactor behind her glowing unstably and realizing that if the Titan reached it, the entire Academy could be destroyed, killing hundreds of cadets and ending humanity's presence on this world before it had even begun. And yet, in that critical moment, she smiled. The same quiet smile she had worn when the paperwork error had sent her here, a smile not of humor but of defiance, because she understood that humans can turn even the smallest opportunities into life-saving advantages. The alien cadets watched in disbelief as she sprinted toward the reactor controls, navigating through falling debris and enemy fire with precise movements, guiding them to cover while simultaneously planning her strike. And even as her limbs burned with exhaustion and her vision blurred from smoke and dust, her mind focused on one impossible goal: using the unstable reactor as a weapon against the Titan without destroying the Academy. A task that required exact timing, flawless execution, and the kind of daring humans were known for when survival demanded it. She coordinated with the remaining alien cadets, giving quick, precise instructions, directing them to distract the Titan, channel energy away from critical points, and prepare the environment for her move, demonstrating leadership not through authority or strength, but through decisiveness and clarity, qualities that made even the strongest cadets trust a human in a situation that would have crushed lesser beings. And as the Titan roared and charged, the chamber trembling with every step, Mira activated the overload device on the reactor, feeling the raw energy pulse through the floor beneath her, a dangerous and unpredictable force that could kill her as easily as it could destroy the enemy. And with perfect timing, she leapt into the air, slamming the device into the Titan's chest with all her remaining strength and pushing off, letting physics carry her away from the epicenter of the explosion. The resulting energy release was both beautiful and terrifying, a blinding wave of white light that tore through the chamber, burning only the enemy and leaving the Academy largely intact. As the Titan screamed and vanished into nothingness, defeated not by brute force but by strategy, courage, and the human ability to see solutions where others could not, and when the light faded, the Academy stood in silence broken only by the cheers and gasps of survivors, who slowly realized that the impossible had been achieved. Hours later, Mira lay in the medical bay, bruised, bleeding, and exhausted, but alive, surrounded by alien cadets who had come to respect her not just as a human, but as a leader, someone who had faced a force meant to destroy them all and had succeeded. And when the instructor informed her that the council had reviewed her file and decided she would remain at the Academy, her groan was one of disbelief mixed with relief, knowing that her life had been irrevocably changed, yet that she had earned her place through courage, intellect, and determination. Outside, the alien cadets bowed, some saluted, and the Academy began to recover from the scars of the battle, as word spread across the galaxy that a human cadet had led the defense, outsmarted the Void Reavers, and faced a Titan in a way no one thought possible. showing the entire universe that humans are more than fragile beings, that they do not break under pressure, and that when faced with overwhelming odds, they adapt, fight, and overcome with resilience and intelligence, qualities that had turned a simple paperwork mistake into a story of legend. Mira's victory was not just a personal triumph, but a symbol of humanity's potential, inspiring cadets of all species to rethink their assumptions about the human race, understanding that while humans may appear weak, their true strength lies in their minds, their creativity, and their unyielding determination to survive and protect others, even when the universe seems against them. And in that moment, looking up at the stars above Vraction Prime, Mira realized that the galaxy had just witnessed a small human change the course of history, and that sometimes the smallest spark can ignite hope, courage, and victory even in the deadliest places. As peace slowly returned to the Academy, Mira reflected on how one tiny error, a simple mistake on a form, had thrown her into hell. Yet through that mistake, she discovered who she truly was and what humanity could do, proving that mistakes can become opportunities, fear can be transformed into courage, and even the most ordinary person can accomplish extraordinary feats when the stakes are impossibly high, leaving a lasting impact on everyone who saw it and setting the stage for future legends, where humans would always be remembered not for their size or strength, but for their heart, mind, and the unbreakable will that allowed them to stand and smile even in the face of certain death.